everyone, welcome back. In my last video, we looked at the steps you need to go through to arrange a meetup. In today's video, I'll share with you my next top tip. What to do on the day if you're hosting a meetup. Stage 1. Starting your meetup. On the day of your meetup, you're probably feeling really excited, but it can be helpful to keep in mind a few simple rules to start your meetup well. These will help you leave a good first impression on your guests. Step 1. Greet your guest. Say hi or hello to make your guest feel welcome. Step 2. If you're at your house, invite them in from the doorstep. You could say something like, "Come in." If you're meeting up with a group of friends who may not know each other, why not introduce them to each other? This doesn't have to be long. You could just say each of their names in turn and how you know them. Step 4. Offer snacks like crisps or drinks. Again, if they're at your house for the first time, it's a good idea to give them a quick tour around so that they know where your bedroom is, where the bathroom is, and if there are any rooms where they're not allowed to go in. Step 6. Ask your guests what they would like to do. This especially applies if you're at home and don't have an outside event booked. Even though you already have plans, it's nice to check in and see if they still fit the mood, because people change their minds and your friends might feel like doing something else on the day. You can check this by asking, do you guys still want to do what you've planned? Or by saying, what would you guys like to do? So that's the end of the first stage, starting your meetup. Now we're going to move on to the next stage, rules during your meetup. Step 1. Let your guests pick the activities. You can offer suggestions, but make sure that you let your guests ultimately decide, so that it'll be fun for them and that they'll want to meet up with you again later. I'm not talking about your main activity, which you've already planned and decided together, but on the day, little decisions like whether to get ice cream or waffles. Ask your guests what they want to have. Step 2. Trade information at least half the time. Remember my earlier videos on how to have a good conversation? Well, you can use those again during your meetup to trade information and take turns so that you get to know your guests better and you can become closer friends with them during the meetup. This way, you can use the meetup as an opportunity to take your friendships further and become even closer friends. Step 3. Don't ignore anyone or leave anyone out. This means that you should try not to walk away from your friends, even if you're starting to find the activity boring. This wouldn't be very polite, and the other people might get a bit confused if the host suddenly leaves or moves away. So instead, just try and hold on a little longer. You can always talk to the others if you're getting bored of the activity itself. Unless you're doing something where you need to be quiet, like at the cinema. And if it looks like everyone else is getting bored as well, not just you, why not take the initiative as the host to suggest changing your activity? I explain this more in a minute. This step also means that if you've invited more than one person, You speak to and engage with all of your guests. Don't leave any one person on their own for too long, or it might not be very fun for them and they might get bored. Another thing that you should try not to do is to go on your phone and contact other people during your meetup. You're having this amazing opportunity to be in the company of your guests, so you should use the meetup time to get to know them better. Otherwise, it can be a bit rude. You can always talk to your other friends who aren't at this meetup later, after the meetup. Step 4. Suggest a change of activity if you and your guests are bored. Even if it's your favourite thing to do, you and your guests might get bored of this activity after a while, and that's fine. That's why you planned backup activities before your meetup. It's up to you as the host to suggest switching activity if it looks like everyone's getting bored. If a guest asks to switch activity, that's okay too. You can just go along with it, as long as all the other guests are happy with that too. Step 6. Keep the peace. This means that as host, it's your job to make sure that all your guests are getting along well with each other and that nobody feels unhappy because of something that someone else said or did. If you do notice something like this, then as host, you should say something to diffuse the tension and defend the person who's feeling upset. But say something very mild so that you don't offend anyone else. The other person may not have meant to hurt anyone's feelings. You could say something like, just leave them alone. So that's the end of the stage on rules during the meetup. And now we're going to move on to ending the meetup. Just like with ending conversations, it can be a little sad when you're ending a meetup, especially if you really enjoyed hanging out with the other person or people. But meetups can't last forever, and you should try to end in style, with a great last impression that will leave your guests wanting to meet up again with you. Simply saying, "It's time for you to go now," is a bit too abrupt, and it might come across as rude to your guests. Here are some better ways that you could signal to your guests that the meetup is over. Step 1. Wait for a pause in activity. This could be when you finish a round of a game, or when there are a few moments of silence in your conversation. Step 2. Give an excuse for ending the meetup. Just like I say in my earlier video, tip 3, ending conversations, you should give a short but believable excuse for ending your meetup, something that fits your situation. If you're at home, you could say something like, "My mum says I need to help with the laundry." Or, if it's a school night, you could say, "I really need to start cracking on with my homework now. It's due tomorrow." Step 3. Begin to walk with your friends to the door. You can do this by slowly getting up from your seat if you're sitting down and starting to walk towards the door. Your friends will probably follow you. Once you've reached the door, open it for your friends to walk through. Step 4. Thank your friends and tell them that you had a great time. They'll probably reply by saying something like, "Thanks for inviting me." Step 5. Tell them that you'll see them or speak to them again later. You could say something like, I'll see you at school tomorrow, or speak to you at lunch. Step 6. Say your final goodbyes before they leave. A final goodbye can be a hug, a handshake, or a wave, before, of course, saying bye as they leave. You can pat yourself on the back for a job well done. Hopefully you enjoyed this meetup and you feel confident about arranging your next one. Let's recap everything we've covered in today's video on hosting a meetup. How to start a meetup, rules during a meetup, and how to end a meetup. Following on from this video, in my next video, I'll talk about what to do if you're a guest at the meetup, rather than if you're the host. I hope you found this video helpful. If you have any questions or comments on anything I've said, drop me a comment below and I'll reply as soon as possible. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye!